I've had a flow of both synchronicity and manifestations recently, and I know it was just a couple of weeks ago that I was discussing how I had fallen into a momentary experience of longing instead of having. And because I caught myself and I moved on and I cleared that and I returned to having, it's like a stream of things started to take place. And this is what happens when we've been practicing these, I don't know what the principles say, over time. When you stick with it, when you stay dedicated to it, when you learn how to kind of let go and release some heavier energies or emotions, and you stay present and you experience life, and yes, you do manifestation techniques, things start getting to a point where it doesn't actually take very much. It can feel like a feather touch. And I've had that in a few ways, but I'm going to share this story today about using I am, something that you'll probably find in Neville Goddard teachings in particular, and is the idea of I am as being, we having the power within ourselves to be whatever we state. So I am happy, I'm rich, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I am loved, I am beautiful, I am, I don't know, ecstatic, right? Like whatever it is that we are connected and resonating with or desire to be resonating with, by really moving into the state of I am that, whatever that is for you, we begin to shift both the energy, both our state, and that naturally results in shift in consciousness. That is a shift in consciousness, which means a shift in thoughts, a shift in feelings, a shift in decisions we make, a shift in choices. And to do that, you have to start in, well, you don't have to. Let me change that. I was going to say you have to start in a state of really believing it, but guess what? You actually don't even have to believe it. It's by asserting it and stepping into that and then noticing anything that comes up. And you may want to clean up what comes up if seems like a negative experience, and then start welcoming what you do want instead, what you do choose instead, and also allowing the negative. Like, it's not to deny that. It's not like if something negative is occurring, something you don't prefer, it's not just to like ignore it or pretend it's not there. First acknowledging it, recognizing any emotions you have around that, doing your best to just let them go, feel them and let them go, feel them, and just let them move through you without being attached to them, without having to go into their story, without attaching meaning to them and making them so important. And then at some point we can end up a little more neutral. So it's just as important then to move on to what we do prefer and then state that I am, and then whatever it is that you'd like to see as a result. So I actually was watching a couple of videos around that myself, and I've barely ever used it actually. This is not a technique that I focused on before. However, I decided to use it on this occasion, and the difference was also interesting. It wasn't actually for myself exactly, it was on behalf of someone. And it's not something I do too often, but once in a while, there can be some people close to us in our life that we wish to support or, just, think positively for them. And so in this case, it was somebody very close to me who had a health checkup that was happening that very day. And given some of the information prior to that checkup, given some of the results that had been shared with this person prior to that date, given some of the information I knew already, it really looked like it was going to be, it was going to require let's just call it a lifestyle change that this person had to make, that obviously could change their life in towards a healthier way, but it was also something they didn't want to have to do. They didn't want to change in that regard. They were hoping just to everything be fine and they could go on as they are. And honestly, I had no reason to believe that that would happen, that that would be the result, given the information, that the so-called evidence in 3D reality, the physical evidence that had been shown before in a couple of ways, in a couple of scenarios. And yet, I got up that morning and I was thinking about them going to the appointment, and I just thought, I'd like them to get a better result than they expect. And I used I am on their behalf. And I don't remember the exact words I stated, but something around, I am this person that receives a positive result. Whatever. I won't go into the specifics, but I just stated what I would prefer to hear, to know, to see, to hear from them that day. And I did it a few times, and then I let it go and I moved on with my day. So I wasn't attached to it. I wasn't sitting there worrying and anxious about it. I said it, and I didn't concern myself with whether I believed it or not. And that sometimes when manifestations happen more easily, when we're just kind of light about it, we're like, well, I almost don't believe it. So when we don't believe it, there's actually like a little expectation we have, and we may just say it in kind of a fun, childlike way, almost like, oh, I'm going to say this. This is what I'm going to state. And so that's what I did. And I let it go, went on with my day. Totally forgot about it. I was going to actually call this person and check in, and I thought, you know what? Then I thought, well, it's late. I'll do it tomorrow. But they called me, and the response was, everything's okay. The doctor said it's fine. I don't need to do anything. I can go back in a year and get another checkup and see how things are going. And even though I actively, consciously chose to use I am earlier that day, I literally I didn't know what to say. I was absolutely stunned. I to the point where I actually said, "Are you sure? Like, are you sure? Maybe you do need to, it would be good to make a couple of changes anyway. Just because it's not bad doesn't mean, it's perfect. So why don't you, right?" And then I had to stop myself because this person was so happy. So happy, just content. So the person's content, the doctor's content. I asked for it. So why not be content too? And this is how light a touch it can be. And of course, it's not to sit around waiting for these moments in some kind of, there has to be a guarantee it's going to work, because obviously there can be more serious situations where we really, really, really prefer something else to happen, and we can get really attached. And yet, even in those situations, to return to I am that, whatever that is, that we desire, that we prefer, that we choose, and to move into that. And no matter what happens, even if temporarily a result is different, to stay with I am and recognize that everything will still work perfectly in our favor. And to move into that kind of trust and acceptance of realizing sometimes things work out in very different ways than we can even imagine. So I was blown away that, again, this was very recent, and I definitely look forward to using this again. I don't religiously use manifestation techniques all the time because it puts me really into my head and takes me out of that joy energy, of that lighter energy through which I tend to manifest more often, and that also allows me to just live kind of day to day without being obsessed by these kind of things. And yet, using the manifestation techniques lightly in this kind of manner, when I'm inspired to do so, when my intuition suddenly says, "Hey, let's try that," it's amazing what can happen. And in that case, when we do that lightly, to actually use them a little more consciously day to day, will begin rapidly shifting our life. Rapidly. But it's by doing it consciously and lightly and continuously, without the obsession, without everything having to happen a certain way, without having to know all the how, without making it some kind of demand that we're having, right? There's difference between making a command and having a demand. A demand is like there's a certain energy behind it, which is like I kind of have need, back to that longing. I require this in a, you have to do this, a must or a should. It kind of has that. Whereas command returns us to I am. I am that which I am. I am my health. I am great health. I am growing wealth. I am expanded self. I am a creative artist. I am, that that acknowledgement. And by saying it out loud, by the way, rather than just thinking it, is also very different, because the vibration of our voice, the sound, also shifts us internally. And so I encourage you to play with it today, this week, and choose something that, if you can, that's just light and playful and fun, or maybe even crazy fun. Like crazy as in, yeah, like there's no chance this is going to happen, right? That kind of play, right? Because often a lot of people say, oh, just do something small, like whether it's a parking spot or whatever. But I that just gets boring, and we're not usually alive when we're sticking to two things that are too cautious either. So instead, to do it for things that are kind of wild and crazy and fun, and make you laugh, that make you go, oh yeah, like I would be completely stunned if that happened. Or to use it, as I did, in something that is important to you. And you may have no actual control over it in a practical way, as I didn't over this person's health. And yet, the manifestation was absolutely stunning. And as I said, everybody was happy with it. So, just another experience that you can bring into your life and try it out and see what it creates. And share with me on the comments below if you have an experience with it, or if you have a question around it. And what else is there? Maybe I'll save the other stories for another time, because there's been a few, as I said.